Hello, everybody. My name is Pat Morio, and I am the Dean of the School of Hospitality and Tourism Management at the University of South Florida. I am honored today to be able to moderate this panel, which will talk about how technology helps independents compete with the big boys, and maybe we should say big girls too, and add that to it. We would like to thank our sponsor, Square. No matter how you're serving your customers these days, Square for Restaurants has the tools to help you shift your business from restaurant POS, contactless payment tools, KDS, online ordering, or an order manager to consolidate your food delivery services. Square is here to help. And if you want to know more about it, go to square.com/restaurants to learn more. We'd also like to remind everybody that this was organized by the International Food and Beverage Technology Association. And you can see on the slide here, it's a nonprofit industry trade association. Membership is open to all operators, suppliers, equal seat at the table. The certification program is available, and there's many industry partnerships and support. And in all transparency, I have to tell you that Rob Grimes, who is certainly instrumental in this association, is on our board of advisors, and I've been working with Rob for many years now in many different places, and it's a terrific organization. So, having said that, I think we're ready to get going. So what we'd like to do, oh yes, and submit your questions via the Q&A tab on the bottom of the screen. Specify which speaker you'd like to answer the question. And stay away from questions regarding sales and pricing, political discussions, or disparaging remarks. I mean, it just will be not a good use of our time, and we are not allowed to talk about pricing anyway. And attendees will be muted. So please use the chat to share your comments and communicate with the panel. As you can see down here, if you want to see this later, you can go and get the link to do that. Are we done with the slides? We are. Okay. So I want to just quickly point out to you the folks that we have here: Dun Chow, President and CEO of Fusion Bistro; Paul Madison, Executive Chef and Proprietor of Madison's Restaurants; and Fred Tim, who's the owner of Real Fish Coastal Kitchen and Bar. I was wondering if each of you could just take a minute or two just to give a couple more items about you before we start the discussion. Why don't we start with you, Fred Tim?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Pat. Well, we opened Real Fish Coastal Kitchen and Bar 3.5 years ago, August 9th. And it's been a journey, and we were just named number one best seafood in Orlando by Orlando Magazine. So that's how long it took us to get that designation, and we're very happy about that. It was a departure for me. I was in the chain multi-unit segment of the business for 30-something years. I moved to Orlando as the Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of Company Cafes for Hard Rock International. And prior to that, I ran all of Al Copeland's full-service restaurants for 4 years in New Orleans. Al founded Popeyes. And prior to that, I was President and Chief Operating Officer of the Palm Restaurant Group based in Washington, D.C. So,
okay.
I just would add Real Fish Coastal Kitchen and Bar is a full-service restaurant serving lunch, dinner, and brunch. And we're kind of a contemporary remake of a classic Southern fish camp. We feature local sustainable seafood as much as possible, and it's been a great experience.
Good. Well, with the next picture here on the slide is Paul Madison. So Paul, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm in Southwest Florida, on the west coast of Florida, and we have 3 restaurants and a busy, used to be busy, off-property catering business as well. 2 of the restaurants are very similar, more of a casual theme, all outdoor seating, live music every night, kind of a fun bar with creative, sustainable food. And then a fine dining operation, which is where our catering operation is based. And we started in 2001, shortly after 9/11, actually. And then followed it up the second year with my first outdoor restaurant, which works really well in Florida and is especially working that well with people not wanting to be outside for dining. And that was an El Nino year, so that was a little challenging. The next year I opened a steakhouse and we had mad cows disease hit. So many as we've had a lot of crazy challenges over the years in getting restaurants going, we've managed to succeed and do well. And now we're motoring through this crazy pandemic time, and hoping for things to turn, and they feel like they're starting to turn a little bit, and hopefully get better. And so, and I actually also sit on Pat's board at USF for the College of Hospitality there, which is a wonderful program. I'm proud to be a part of that. So happy to be here and happy to help with this discussion today.
Okay, thanks, Paul. And then finally, Dun Chow, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thanks for having me here. My background is mechanical engineering. I did that for about 4 years, and then went into high-tech venture capital for 4 years after that. In 2005, I came to Orlando from California, but I grew up in Florida, went to Florida State. I came back to Orlando to help my mother sell her restaurant that she was an investor in. And that one restaurant is by the Florida Mall. We were there from the late 2004 to 2012. And during that time, we actually grew to 5 restaurants total, 3 in Orlando, 2 in Atlanta, where my 4 brothers still live. And so I had to learn real quickly how to manage and run these restaurants remotely and duplicate myself as anyone. In 2010, the 5th restaurant we opened is currently still inside of Universal Studios City Walk. The other 4 restaurants I've actually sold. I kind of retired, but I told people semi-retired, you really can't retire from this business when there's people who are your friends and colleagues in there. But the one restaurant that we have left that we have ownership to is still inside of Universal City Walk. And the pandemic kind of hit us hard there because unlike a lot of restaurants, you can actually still do takeout and delivery. We were just closed. And we recently came back up. It's been a little bit slower as we teeter back in. But during that time, when we opened in 2010, running around, and this is not my only business. I also do real estate and life insurance and import-export. I had to find different ways to run and manage my restaurants without having to be there on full time. I still do that today. So because of the kids and other interests in other businesses, I couldn't do it without technology. So this is a great platform for me to share with you guys. In 2005, also, I joined the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association on the board to this day. So I still serve on as a board of directors as well. So we look forward to having you guys here, and thanks for having me here.
Well, Dun, since we just heard part of the background story on you and what part of what you can contribute to this panel, why don't you just go ahead then and comment to us on how you're using technology to compete with the big boys and girls.
Sure. The first reason why I joined the Restaurant Association was I was complaining to one of my vendors who was on the board or a restaurant member. And she was from a credit card company. She came in to set us up, and I said, "Man, I'm just running like a headless chicken, trying to figure this place out as an owner now. I'm really just here learning from my employees how to be the owner." And it's a manual system. It's a sushi bar. All my restaurants are full service sushi bar, with the exception of Universal. Now it's just a takeout. You walk up to the counter, just like a food court, you order something, we call your number, you come pick it up, all 100% to go with seat dining on the patio. And so I went from a manual system of taking literally on a piece of paper, giving it to the sushi chef. And when he's done, we give it to the cashier. They would take out the calculator, and all the cashiers had to calculate in their apron and punch away. This is back in 2005. And now I have a second location open up in Atlanta in 2007. So we're like, okay, I don't know how many sales we have. And so when I'm running this business and the one in Atlanta and then my other businesses, there's got to be an easier way. And at that time, I think as a beginning restaurateur, small business, small mom and pops, we don't have the infrastructure and the money to invest into these big, even fancy POS. When I hear the fancy big boys in the POS, the price tag just blew me away. I said, okay, we're going back to calculators. Well, fast forward to today, my wife and I run the restaurant 100%. We don't really have any managers. We have 28 employees, all part-time with the exception of 3 who are full-time. Full-time meaning they work more than 35 hours a week. And the way we are able to do that, we use POSs that are Android based. There are apps you can install. Everything is mobile now. Our employees clock in through their mobile phone. They send us messages when they take breaks or when their deliveries coming in. A photo is sent to us. So the payroll is now done by apps as well. So literally everything just went to mobile apps. And this would be, I would say, in the last really 5 years that really got that far. And today I'm getting inundated by new companies every other day by email. Hey, we have a new system. Hey, we have this. Hey, we have that. So everything is moving online. And when the shutdown happened, or even before the shutdown happened, just before that, people were used to going to their restaurants. The owners were used to going in. Now people don't even go to the restaurant. So for us, we were already prepared. 8, 9 years ago, we kind of stepped away from being at the restaurant full time because I just have so many things on my hand. I got 2 boys and a daughter. So the technology that we put in place wasn't because I looked around and go, I wonder what would be fun to put in my restaurant. It was like, oh my gosh, I need to do something. What do I have to do? And just going to trade shows, going to the people at the restaurant association, just asking other friends when I go out to eat. I'm always, and you guys know this as an owner, when you walk into a place, first thing you do is you look around and see what they got. And then if you see people with technology or mobile devices or something now on the desk, you guys should play games while you wait for your bill to come. I would ask, hey, what are you guys using? What are you guys using? And that's how we kind of grew into that, getting more technology in place.
Okay, great. Fred, let's jump over to you. And why don't you tell us a little bit about, yours is a different story, of course, but tell us a little bit about how you're using technology and your operation.
Is that question for me?
Yeah, Fred, sorry.
Okay, thanks. Well, there are lots of ways that technology pervades our life nowadays in any restaurant, multi-unit or independent. From cameras to apps on your phone that tell you who has deactivated or rearmed your alarm system. Many different benefits that we all enjoy that weren't around not that long ago. We're not a really a tech forward restaurant in any respect, but there are a couple of things that I think that true to the theme of the panel have really leveled the playing field. And coming from a background where Hard Rock, we had so much technology and so much sophistication that it's been quite a contrast. A lot of times people want to know how has the COVID-19 pandemic impacted us, and how have we, to use the cliche, pivoted to adapt to the changes that have occurred. And I'm sure everybody can relate to this. We were forced to be closed for 7 weeks, and during that time, which was a very, very unnerving time, we were only able to do takeout and delivery. And and that prompted us to look into online ordering. Really for us, being a full-service seafood restaurant, we were doing some takeout previously, but it wasn't something we were strategically really going after. A lot of times takeout comes at the worst possible time for us when the line's already maxed out. And so, we were kind of doing it on an ad hoc basis, but suddenly our survival depended on it. I called my webmaster who managed our website, and I said, well, what would it cost you guys to do an integrated online ordering package for us? And they came back with a quote of $18,000. To have something the equivalent of what Outback has. If you've ever booked I like to order from Outback, and it's kind of like booking a room at the Four Seasons. The level of technology and interaction that they have with you. So I found out shortly after that there were these platforms out there that sit beside your website for a few bucks a month, and just setting up a special arrangement with your credit card processor. So now we use a brand called GloriaFoods.com, and it's been super effective and easy to use and easy to set up. And it has a lot of features that our guests enjoy, like allowing them to specify what time they want to pick it up. And we also do our own delivery. We run our own drivers and our own staff. Basically, it was a way for us to keep staff employed initially, and now we actually have people driving. So that's been that's a game changer for us. And I would estimate that we do about 65 to 70% of our takeout comes through the system and not through the phone. So it's been a big boon to us. you know, and I think the other way that I think that what's really changed in my career, and you know, when I was at Hard Rock, you know, we wanted to be responsive to social media. We had a platform for our operators to consolidate all of the comments and ratings that came through Yelp and OpenTable, and Google wasn't really a factor so much back then. You know, TripAdvisor and so forth, and we tried to get the operators to be responsive and to manage that. What's really game changing for an independent operator is that we actually, because of the way people use their phones and how they think about where they're going to dine today, which is a dramatic change, we actually are able to pull guests out of the Orlando tourism corridor, which is about a 35-minute drive from here under the best circumstances. And you know, because people are typing in best seafood, or they're just getting, you know, you work really hard to maintain your ratings on all those platforms and make sure that your Google algorithms are up to date, so that when somebody's looking for you, you're coming up in the top of their searches. And to me, that's transformational. You can literally get a traveling salesman driving by on I-4, which is about a 7-minute, you know, the exit's about 7 or 8 minutes from our restaurant, and he's typing in best seafood, and we come up and hopefully in the top, and gets off the highway, hits his nav system, and takes him right to our front door. This enables an independent to really compete effectively. You can't, you know, you can't ever, you know, underestimate the power of the brand power of chains. And you know, a standalone Longhorn Steakhouse on the corner of, you know, of McGuire and Colonial Drive, you know, is probably doing $75,000 to $125,000 a week. It's crazy numbers for an independent. But so I think that that's really been, obviously it comes with a lot of responsibility. It comes with a lot of maintenance and heartache, of course, when you get the reviews that you don't, you know, something that tell you that you made a mistake or that you let the customer down. But I think those are two ways that technology has leveled the playing field for independent restaurants.
Thank you, Fred. You know, I mean, the issue of the example you just gave of the person in their vehicle
Right.
coming down 75, that's just amazing. And,
it's true. I mean, I'm telling this from personal experience, you know, but also it's delightful to think, you know, when we opened this restaurant, we're in Winter Park. So for people that don't know, Winter Park is kind of somewhat of a self-contained city of about 28,000 people. As I said, we are a solid 35-minute drive from the Disney Universal, you know, just the edge of that area. To think that we can actually pull a meaningful number of people from that, you know, of course now it's not as much, as obviously it's diminished, as Dunn knows, and many others. So, you know, the occupancy levels are much lower than they ever were. So I guess I'm speaking pre-COVID to some extent, but you know, it is pretty powerful. Yeah, I definitely get the traveling salesman going through.
well, and this too will change back. We hope sooner than later.
We hope so. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And Paul, what about you? How has technology, how have you incorporated it into your, you have 3 restaurants, I believe, and a lot going on.
We do have a lot going on, and like Fred, we're not a real tech forward kind of place. I've got the same POS system that I opened up nearly 20 years ago. But it's interesting because, like Fred mentioned, you know, you get people all the time reaching out to you. I just met with a different POS supplier recently because they dropped off something that was kind of compelling and interesting to me, which was a really unique and very sleek looking handheld device. And with especially our outdoor restaurants are very busy, and you know, I just see the using that technology and being able to hit the table, take that order, and immediately send that copy to the kitchen without having to go back and find a terminal, and then on to the next table and print a check for someone and just keep right on going. Really concentrate and focus that service within your station. So you know, I reached out for that person, and we had a meeting and looked over the possibility of bringing a new system in. And I looked at it, and it was amazing that the cost of it was not pretty similar to what it was 20 years ago. As technology gets more and more affordable and more user friendly, more and more things that it can do. But the system really didn't do much more. The caveat that got me away from it was that the handheld devices required you to not only let this company overtake and run your system, your POS system, but also they had to process your credit cards. Those handheld terminals made that they had to go with their credit card processing. And the rate was much higher than the rate that I've had negotiated. And it was just a deal breaker for me to spend that much more money processing the credit cards, because it's a significant line item in our world. So, you know, I keep looking for something that will possibly work with the system that I already have without having to make that change. So I'm still looking for a handheld system that'll do that. But outside of that, the system didn't do anything new for me other than what we already had. And like I say, technology that we got involved in, you know, nearly 20 years ago. So the business hasn't changed that much, and the needs haven't changed that much as far as reporting and how to run and operate. Other technology directions, I think, you know, when COVID first hit, we made the decision not to go into an aggressive takeout business. It wasn't in our mind originally. As I said earlier, we do a lot of off-property catering work. For us, you know, a to-go order is we load a refrigerated truck full of food and ingredients and set up a field kitchen and cook on site and try to prepare a meal that is, you know, exactly the same quality you get in a fine restaurant. So as much as we'll do takeout, and we always did some takeout, and we're doing more than we ever did now, it was never a focus of our business, you know, from a presentation of your food standpoint. And now that's more focused. I'm working with my chefs every day going, how can we really put a more spectacular display and presentation out? What kind of packaging are we using? How are we presenting this food? Because more and more people want it that way. You know, we've explored with, you know, side dishes that are prepared, sauces that are prepared, but they still have to grill their own meat. They still have to grill their own steak or piece of fish. And so we're starting to experiment with some of that a little bit. But technology-wise, we are looking now at, I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, but we're about to put in an online ordering system on the website, at our menu, order any of the menu items that we have. It coordinates with our existing system. That order will go right to our line printers, and those orders will be generated right away. As so you know, Tim, like you said, there's a lot of standalone systems that will work. Will integrate. You don't have to start from scratch. And then the other thing that we do use technology quite a bit for now more than ever is search engine optimization, marketing, certainly social media. But at the end of the day, from a marketing perspective, our email and our e-blast system, our list that we've developed over the years, is still our strongest response that we get. Maybe we haven't overcome technical. That's still very important. A lot of people are still using email and looking at e-blast, but we find that's certainly a strong part of where our technology is landing. But outside of that, nothing too crazy new. Again, there's thinking of systems out there that can integrate with it you have, and you know, I'm still looking for the day. I keep begging for this, and nobody seems to have an answer for this, but I'm still looking for the day. My email database and my reservation system database and my loyalty rewards program database and my social media database all can be combined into one, because I still haven't found a system that does that. But that's my dream system in this industry, that's for sure.
Paul, before I have a follow-up question. We'll start with you, and then we'll go around. And I would also ask, somebody's got a microphone open that's allowing some wonderful cry, and I don't know where it's coming from. It's certainly not my house. The dog is in another room, and I don't know. So I don't know if you know where that open mic is, and we might want to double check your mics. I don't think it's any of the four of us here on the panel. So
yeah, no, I was hearing it too. I thought maybe
no, Laura, check yours. It might be on your end, and so double check that. Anyway, Paul, what I wanted to, as the first follow-up question, I'll remind our listeners to please let us have the questions. Go ahead and type them in, and you know, we'll be able to ask them. And if you have one for a particular panelist, let us know that. Paul, my first follow-up question for you, I guess I have two of them. One of them is, are you significantly different in the way you're using technology in, let's say, for example, for those of you who don't know, one of Paul's restaurants is really a very high-end, rather formal restaurant, beautiful. And then he's got one right in the middle of downtown, which is recovered. I mean, I walk by there, I do my walk on the weekends down there, and it's jammed on Saturdays when I go by there. So is the way you're using technology different in these two places, or are you using the same systems?
We're using the exact same system in both places. Like I say, the one thing I'd like to see different is to have that handheld at the downtown busy place. I probably wouldn't need it so much in the fine dining operation, but in that outdoor busy restaurant, it'd be a helpful tool there. So we're still exploring possibly adding those to the system. But it was funny because when I met with this vendor on the new system, we've got 4 terminals at this point, 4 standalone terminals. And we run anywhere from 9 to 11 servers on a shift. And so when they put the quote together, they suggested, again, 4 standalone terminals and those 9 handhelds. And I said, well, if you've got all these handhelds, what do we still need the standalone systems for? And that I didn't quite get. And so we say, you know, you don't go completely handheld. You still have to have a system come to for managers to use, probably for the bartender. I could see 2. But that's the only difference. Other than that, it is the exact same POS system.
And the next question I guess I would have is for all of you, but prompted really by your comment, Paul, about integrating as much as possible, you know, reservations and communications and advertising and marketing. Do you use OpenTable, and do systems like OpenTable help operators?
We don't use OpenTable. I've experimented with it, moved away from it. I use a similar online reservation system, so guests can make reservations online. But I found OpenTable and other companies like it. It was a good and bad. There were positive and negative to it. And for me, once your regular customers start using it, you start to pay for every single reservation coming through. I also found that they marketed not only your business but other businesses. And at one time, what really turned me off of it, when I was really just starting to use it and trying to experiment with what the experience of it was, I was in Orlando with my family and some friends, and we were looking to go out to dinner. And I heard about this new restaurant that opened that I wanted to check out, and so I went online to make a reservation through OpenTable, and it had a certain amount of tables that it had on OpenTable that were blocked out, and all those tables had been filled. So I said, you know, I'm going to take a chance. I'm a restaurant guy. I know how it is. We always get a cancellation. We always got a table to squeeze something in. So I just called the restaurant and talked to somebody and said, hey, I'm in the business up in Sarasota. I'm over in Orlando for the night. Love to check out your restaurant. And I see on OpenTable you guys are full. Any way to squeeze a table in? Any way to squeeze in a reservation? And I think there were 6 of us or 8 of us going. And they said, what time would you like to come? I said, I would like to come around 7:30, but we'll take whatever you have. And they said, yeah, come at 7:30. And we walked in and the restaurant was half full. And I think a lot of guests would have seen that those allocated table spaces were gone already on OpenTable and just made the decision, oh, they must be full, let's go eat somewhere else. And I brought that up to the manager's attention. I said, I've been looking at the system too, but somehow there's got to be some better ways to utilize the settings that you don't let that happen. So we went with a simpler system that really just manages our reservation sheets, keeps notes, and keeps a database of our regular clientele. And it doesn't have a marketing component to it. It just
and let's see if either of the 2 of you have a comment on that. And then once we finish with those comments, we do have a question come in. So, Dunn, how about you? Well, of course, you're not taking reservations. Yours is
No, I didn't take a reservation, but I did use the OpenTable in the beginning. I was actually one of the first restaurants in Orlando that was their guinea pig. There were only 3 of us when OpenTable first opened up in the late 2004. And the next year went to 25, and now they're just literally hundreds. But it's the exact same thing that was mentioned earlier. There are some pros and cons. So currently at our restaurant, we don't use a reservation system because of the good and bad. I didn't like, the biggest thing for me was paying for seats that were my regular customers anyway. That I'm basically paying them a marketing fee for guests who normally would come in with or without that system. If it's just about the reservation system, then we're not using that. But as far as like being mobile or whatever, we're not here to have a list of companies or technologies that you want to have, but if you probably name a technology, I probably tried it. We were the first one to try a company out of Fort Lauderdale. They were a startup, and we were, again, one of the first 3 people that did it. And it's just because I came from a technology background, people know about, oh, this guy Dunn, he used to do venture capital for tech companies. You should ask him to join the board. But not only they asked me to join the board, I actually came on as a client. I wanted to do the mobile. Back then it was a Compact, remember the HP Compact one? It wasn't the Android. So in 2004, before the iPhone came out, it was just very manual, and Palm Pilots were still in use. So we would have to separate that from a regular POS, and to go from pieces of paper to going to a mobile without even a POS, that was a big head explosion for our staff. It was some trying time. Now, I took that technology on to help the company grow. To this day, I still help some tech companies, whether it be payroll or staffing, or online ordering. I still help these startup companies. So I'm a little bit more aware of it. I would say you don't need that to be one of the best restaurants in town. So take technology as much as you want to go. And I go to the technology only when I really feel a need. The drawback on that is you don't even know what your need is for technology, because you don't know what you don't know out there. I recommend, for this panel, and I don't know how we would close at the end on what's available out there, but one recommendation I can give for you is go see what people are using. You can literally just Google first, but then go to support your local businesses. The chain have spent millions of dollars putting beta systems, and now it's on their tabletops. Go to those guys. Contact similar technologies like that. Like, don't do what I did, which is to just research and see what's out there, because you're just going to go bonkers. There's just way too many out there. Looking to see what the big guys are already using. I'm the biggest copycatter when I started. I joined the Restaurant Association. I want to see what these guys are doing. My next door neighbor that I share the wall with at the Florida Mall area, the Plaza, is an Outback Steakhouse. And so I would always walk over there and say, like, how do you guys do your specials? What do you put on your happy hour menus? And same thing with technology. So you don't necessarily have to go just Google stuff up, but mainly for researching deeper what you want. But spend the time and look at the focus of what you already have. And another resource is to go to the association meetings. You go there and talk to other folks who already have technology. Again, you don't have to have it to be successful and be one of the best rated restaurants. We were already best sushi restaurant from 2005, 2010, before I went heavy loaded with the technology anyway. And sometimes you're too focused on troubleshooting your stuff rather than taking care of customers and operations when you go too far onto technology.
So what I hear you saying, one of the things, Don, is to use the big boys when it makes sense to see what they're up to, and
yes,
not invent the wheel. Fred, what about any thoughts on that question, particularly the reservation booking questions? I don't know. We might have Fred frozen right now.
Fred looks frozen to me too.
Fred looks like he's frozen. Well, while we're waiting for Fred to come back, and then we'll swing back to him when he does. We do have a question from the audience, and the question is I just lost it. Okay. There are so many different POS companies now. How do you suggest a new business starting out to figure out the best one? And I think, Dunn, you just gave a preliminary answer to that, but I wonder if anybody wants to add to what Dunn already said. And then Fred, are you back live again?
Did I disappear?
You disappeared. So let's go to that one first, and then we'll come back. Okay.
Yeah, I seem to be having my internet seems to be going in and out.
It happens. So,
Spectrum.
Anything to add to what Dunn just really kind of answered the question partially, but anything else to add to that on what should a new operator do?
I don't really have a lot to add there. Obviously, what I was thinking of was go to the restaurant.
Fred, you're cutting out.
I think I'll jump in. until Fred unfreezes. But I think every operation is different. It really depends on the type of operation that they have, the size of the operation. You look at some of these smaller cafes and simply locations. I have one location that we run, which is in the Performing Arts Hall in town, and we've got a very small menu mix. There's probably maybe 30 to 40 different SKUs between food items and bar choices and so on. It's a pretty simple operation. We really don't need a full-blown POS system. The menu that we put out is a buffet-style dinner before a performance, and then it's bars. So we find in those that a simple type of system that does credit card processing and also can act as a very simple POS system was a really good solution there. It's a monthly lease. There's no big cost to install a big system in the first place. There was no pre-wiring to do. Everything's done wirelessly. We can take those with us and use them, if we move with the operation around, if we put an outside bar up or something like that. So, a system like that, something like a Square, and I think Square has some technology that works with that, can work in a simple, smaller operation. If you've got a big involved restaurant, then you probably need a full-on POS system that's going to track and have several line printers and different stations, each having their own printer depending on what food needs to be there. So it's a hard answer to answer. It really depends on the type of operation.
Yeah. We have 7 minutes left, but before I've got another question here for Dunn, but let me just go back to Fred and let you finish. Fred, you were starting to make a comment before. There were two issues. The one was you never commented on the reservation systems. We were talking about that and Open Table.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Am I back?
Yes.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, just really quickly on that. I think what's changed is that the Open Table's dominance was a result of the fact that Google had not yet ascended. And if you go back 10, 15 years, or let's just say 10 years, and a business person was driving from LaGuardia to downtown Manhattan and looking for a place to dine, they would go to Open Table as their default search engine to look for restaurants. That's completely changed. That's no longer, people used to use Open Table, and if you weren't in the Open Table system, you were going to miss out. Now they're Googling best steakhouse, best Italian, best whatever, and that's where the search function is behaving. So I think I still use Open Table, and there are many benefits to it, and there are also costs to it. But I've recently become aware that that's the sea change, I think, that has gotten me interested in looking. From a POS perspective, I would just say, what's changed from a chain versus independent perspective is what they used to, I left the chain world about 5 years ago, but we referred to them even then as the legacy brands that kind of, that created the POS industry, but they're all shackled to some extent to their hardware-based systems and the fact that they're deployed in thousands of restaurants, whereas cloud technology, has only been around since, let's say, 2000. It was a new idea in 2006 or 7, and now it's prevalent. We use a local group called One POS right here in town, and you can make changes to your system and instantaneously have them take effect. Back in my Micros days, even that wasn't possible. You had to go through a lot more hoops to change a price or change a configuration. So there's been, I would just encourage everybody to look at the cloud-based systems and not necessarily get seduced by some of the. I'm sure the legacy brands have come up with new stuff too. I just haven't been in the game.
And the other issue with the ground-based systems, not the cloud-based systems, is every time there's a software update, it costs you a fortune to get that installed.
Right.
It was not fun. So Dunn, this last question is for you. Then hopefully we can have just one quick closing remark from everybody. But the question for you is, have you been texting your customers? Any thoughts on that?
Yes, we've been texting customers back 10 years ago, and I had creative ways of doing it, because here's our situation. We were this little tiny restaurant, hole in the wall, 1,500 square feet, right next to an Outback Steakhouse, and then right in front of us is an Olive Garden. And we love the carryover traffic, but our doors were dead. We were like empty, or relatively, compared to these guys, where there's a line outside, and I'm just salivating, looking at them, giving out waters for people to wait outside. And I'm thinking, like, how do I get to these people? They only will go and eat and order food from you if they know about you. And then once they come in, I want them back. And so we started doing a manual system before technology was there. We had a sign-up sheet. Hey, there's an event coming. next week, would you like to be invited to this VIP event? It was just a tasting. I gave a bunch of appetizers, put them in the corner. First time we had 10 people. And then after a month, we had 100 people. So I captured all their email and phone numbers. And at that time, we were emailing people manually. There was no apps yet. This is back in 2005. So here's what's now. There are companies that came out since then, and they've gone away as well. But a whole bunch of other companies came up for texting. I use a Clover Systems, an Android base, and I don't throw any company out there as name or really support any company out there. I think it's just to your operation, what POS systems you use. I like this one just because it's Android based and there are apps you can add on. But I go somewhere else. I don't have a current reward system. Our customers, some of them are employees of Universal Studios, but 90% of them are tours that we may see again next year. Okay. I don't have a great way to capture them, and this is the danger of texting. They don't like it if you do it too many times because they already heard from you, and you're gonna get everyone just opt out. Okay, so but you know, I would say if you were gonna text people, prepare and let them know what kind of frequency would you like to be texted, and then figure a way to do that. Even if you do it manually, and then when you have a special, tell them about it. You got to be relevant. I think it's great that the texting is great to do that. So yes, I do that now, but really just my what I call VIP. I don't have it through my system. Is literally, I have maybe 40 people that I want to tell to, and those are the bloggers and the people who get the word out more. They're the foodies in my town, but I don't do it for the entire city. Now, the places I visit, they use the same POS system, and they give a code for the rewards, buy 10, get 1 free thing. That's a great way to capture their numbers and capture their ways. But I did it manually. I said, there's an event. These are people coming through the door already, right? And then I say, if you bring a friend, you will get this special drink or, you know, whatever. So that's how I did it manually and grew.
Well, that's great, guys. You know, and lady, well, there's no ladies on the panel. 4 gentlemen. Next time we'll have to fix that. But gentlemen, thank you. We only have 1 minute left, so there isn't enough time for each of you to kind of make a closing statement. But you each had a reaction here to all the questions, with the exception of texting. But I would say this to you, that I really appreciate, on behalf of the Technology Association, what you've done. And I will tell you this, and Paul can attest to this, I'll have you on my list. I will be inviting you next semester to be guest speakers in our speaker series class, 1 at a time, so you get the whole stage to yourself. And it'll either be Zoom, or you don't have to come to Sarasota. You can, and then we'll broadcast that. We broadcast it on YouTube and Facebook, so it'll be a lot of fun. Thank you all very much, and audience, thank you for your questions, and thanks for the opportunity. Bye, everybody.
Thanks. Thank you, guys.
Great job, Pat. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
So I guess we're done, huh?